Our new song is available for pre-order at getcominghome.com. Check it out. Download iTunes to pre-order and support our work. We got this story from SCNR. Bill Maher defends Trump as audience laughs about second assassination attempt. This is a problem. I actually respect this opening segment from Bill Maher. You know, Bill certainly, I think, says a lot of dumb things that I disagree with, but he's on point from time to time. He calls out wokeness to a certain degree. He's got Trump derangement syndrome. He famously said, if a recession stops Trump, bring on the recession. But when it comes to this, here's the opening segment he did on his show, and I do respect it. He's got some jokes in there.
So let's not bury the lead. The big story this week, they tried to shoot Trump again. Let's not funny. Okay. I'm being serious now. That's the second time this happened. I said this before. There can be no fuzz on this. This is not funny. Okay? It's not okay. It's not okay to wish it happened. Well, this is a problem. People, well, I mean, look, this happens too frequently. I'm sorry. This happened on the golf course. A guy was laying in wait, and it happens too much. In fact, besides the shooter, there were two other shooters beside him waiting to play through.
That was good. I respected the joke about the shooters playing through. I respect that he made a joke after the fact. I think it was fantastic. He opened up. He said, you can tell before the people laugh, he was saying, and it's not fun. And then they start laughing. Goes, it's not funny. And then he actually basically tells him, like, no, like, this is happening too much. I respect it. And then I will say, he's like, it's not okay to wish it happened. Everyone laughs. Now, at that point, I do think some people are laughing at the thought that people are wishing it would happen. It's like an absurdity. Like, in the circumstance, I don't think they're directly laughing, wishing it happened. But this is a good sign, in my opinion. Not that Bill Maher has the big ratings. You know, he's got a big show. He certainly does. It's not like he commands the left like MSNBC or anything, but I do appreciate that at least we're seeing some kind of pushback.
Yeah, I mean, we're not seeing anything, I would say, in the influencer community, social media. Instead, on TikTok, you're seeing people wish it did happen or wish he got closer, getting millions of views. Like, they missed again. Like, how did it not happen? And I think that's the difference here is, like, even though, yes, he's Hollywood and his show sucks and he hates Trump, at least he's giving an ounce of respect to the President Trump and saying, like, yeah, no, it's not funny, because there was a large amount of people that say it's very funny, especially college kids. I was in Pennsylvania last week talking to kids about who they're voting for, why they're not voting for Trump. And they're like, well, I just hate Trump and I'd never vote for Trump. And I'm like, well, why? And I'm like, okay, well, what did you think about the second assassination attempt? And they're like, well, they missed, like, he got caught. And that's so unfortunate that there's a large part of our generation that wishes death upon somebody.
There was a lot of that the first time around, too.
Yep.
And the fact that I have to say first time around referring to July is kind of crazy. Do you think that the hatred of Donald Trump is something that people who are doing get out the vote efforts should take seriously? I mean, do you just regard those people as a lost cause, or are they not even voting?
I mean, when it comes to Gen Z, like Pennsylvania, battleground state, I saw Turning Point Action directly. We registered over 600 people on college campuses to vote in the state, which is phenomenal. But then when you're talking to the people that are like, well, I hate Trump, I'd never vote for him, some of them are kind of lost causes. The number one issue for Gen Z, I believe, is going to be abortion, and it is abortion. But when you talk to conservative Gen Zers, they say no, inflation, which is such a polarizing, like, two separate issues that we're talking about. And so when it comes to the Kamala Harris supporters and the Gen Zers, I think that a lot of them are lost causes because they've drank the Kool-Aid and they just hate Trump and they're never Trumpers, and there's no amount of facts or knowledge that you could show them, or even talking about an assassination attempt, that will ever change their mind, unfortunately. But we're trying.
It's funny because the young people, Trump is the most pro-choice Republican ever.
Right.
But the youth are still concerned about his lack of pro-choice bona fides. It makes sense, and it's very understandable. If that's the issue you care about, you're voting for a Democrat, and that's an issue that's sinking Republicans.
And if you've heard Kamala Harris say over and over again, every state that has
National
a restrictive,
abortion ban.
right, or like when Indiana passes an abortion restriction, she refers to it as a Trump abortion ban, even though he's not from that state, and it was done by the state legislature when he wasn't in office, right? Like, he claims victory for the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and I understand the link. On the other hand, he himself is not showing up at any of these state houses advocating for these specific laws. I think there are, members of Congress that are way more involved with this kind of advocacy than I would say Donald Trump. Yeah. What I find fascinating about young voters is that they feel really divided. Yep. And there was a poll from, I think, NBC that said, overall, the economy is the biggest concern for all young Americans, but you do see these other like second tier issues become sort of the thing that they talk about. Like even if they are like, yeah, I know, like I can't afford anything, I want to buy a house. They all sort of, even conservatives, have a second thing that they turn to, whether it's on both sides abortion or whether it's the Israel-Palestine conflict. I think that there is a level of disinterest because no one can get all of these issues right for young progressive voters. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, they can't get it right because that's even talking to, I talked to this very, very progressive woman, and she is pro-choice up until birth. She says that it's not a life until it's born. I mean, I debated this girl for over an hour, and we just never got anywhere. But then she said, but the one issue that's really conflicting me about Kamala Harris is Israel-Palestine, because she won't say that it's genocide, and she won't say anything about a ceasefire. So it's like the progressive liberals that are supporting Kamala Harris, there's still no winning because it's still like they don't like her about certain issues. But then even you said, yes, Trump is the most pro-choice Republican we've ever seen, but it's not enough for the left because they want to murder children.
Well, the other Republicans are dragging Trump down when they're trying to make him more pro-life. You've seen some pro-life groups say that he's not sufficiently pro-choice. But overturning of the Roe v. Wade was probably the pro-life movement's biggest accomplishment in decades. So if I'm a woman and care about abortion, I'm voting Democrat.
And the abortion issue became an expansive topic for Democrats, right? Because it's not just abortion, it's women's reproductive rights, which means that it's everything now from fertility treatments to the care you get after you miscarry a baby to abortions. I mean, that's kind of crazy.
It's
Those
the pro-life
are actually
purists
very different
who are
things.
dragging people down. More, I don't know if you're a pro-life purist, but it's the life at conception people who Democrats are able to fearmonger around. When they say IVF, if you're a pro-life purist, you're against IVF. You're probably against IUDs. Which is scary for most normie Democrats.
Right, but I got to push back. It's not the pro-life purists. It's the militant pro-life purists. There are a lot of people who are pro-life purists who are like, I understand this is not the political battleground right now and Trump needs to win. And then you have the political activists who are like, Trump doesn't deserve my vote unless he gives me everything I want.
Yeah. To clarify, pro-life purist, I mean life at conception.
I know, and there are people.
I'm a pro-life purist. Like I'm life at conception, and IVF they are lives, they are embryos. But at the end of the day, when you look at it from a legislative perspective, I want Trump in office, and I want to protect as many baby lives as physically possible. But if that means Kamala Harris winning because pro-life people won't vote for Trump because he's not pro-life enough, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
And that's my point. There are people who are like, I am a pro-life purist, but I will compromise so Trump can win. And then there are the militant who are like, no, I will not vote for Trump unless he gives me 100%, which is insane. My response to that was, I'm anti-war, and Trump doesn't deserve anti-war votes unless he bans war. And it's like, dude, the idea that I was telling this to libertarians, the idea that you're going to vote for a president who's going to walk in on day one and go, I hereby abolish all American war is never going to happen. Mm-hmm. And if you do something like that, you're going to get Afghanistan times 100. If you want to wind down foreign intervention, where you can, you do it gradually. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to knock it down in a day. And so that means I like Donald Trump's foreign policy. It's pretty good. It's anti-interventionist. He's pulling a lot back. He's not perfect. When the libertarians are like, Trump did bad thing. And I'm like, he certainly did. And he's done less bad thing than anybody else. So I'll take it.
Right.
I think it's kind of analogous to how some Kamala people or some Palestine supporters don't believe Kamala is sufficiently pro-Palestine. Ooh. So it's like a lesser of the two evils thing. So Morgan, when it comes to the abortion issue, you think Donald Trump would be lesser of the two evils, although he doesn't get the ultimate goal done.
But I think what we're missing is the fact that Democrats have turned abortion into an expansive issue. If they were purists on this issue, they would stick to abortion solely. But instead, they're like, actually, Trump is going to take your birth control away. And actually, he's going to make it impossible for you to see a doctor.
Well, some Republicans provide so much ammo for this, though. They make it such low-hanging fruit.
I think it's two things. I think Americans don't have a good understanding of any of the science behind reproduction. And I think we should blame a lot of things for that. Some people blame, absence-only education. Some people just blame our general education system. But I think it is a weakness that we have put ourselves into, and Democrats are capitalizing this. And I bet there are a ton of other issues that people can point to and say, well, it was just this one thing with Democrats at first, but now it's 27 things, and they put it under this one label, and now Republicans are having to defend themselves on 8 sides as opposed to 1. It's a very different conversation to say, I feel strongly about the life begins at conception, and therefore these restrictions should be in place. But then if you have to answer all of these questions about this treatment, and she's not gonna have a doctor, and what about birth control and whatever else, they will always be on the offensive, you will always be on the defensive.
Yeah, I really feel like there's no winning when it comes to the abortion argument, because they have encapsulated everything into being, well, you're just anti-woman as well. They have taken this and coined it as the feminist movement's new pillar of, if you are not pro-abortion, then all of a sudden you're anti-birth control, you're anti-surrogacy, you're anti-IVF, you're anti all of these things, which isn't the case.
Well, it's the logical conclusion of many of those things. Although you principally might not want to legislate that way, if you believe that life begins at conception, then and aren't going to use all the embryos in IVF, it would make sense why you'd be against that. With IUDs, for example, you could still have a fertilized egg that won't be able to implant as a result of the IUD, so it would make sense as to why you'd be against IUDs.
I think you can be pro-life and make a commitment. If you're going to fertilize, number one, you would go to a doctor and say, I don't want to fertilize 18 embryos. I want to try one at a time. I want to do whatever I can to mitigate excessive risk.
But it wouldn't be economically feasible, I guess,
we don't know that, though. I mean, so far, we're just saying, this is the way it is, so that's all we can do. But I know doctors who have had conversations with pro-life Catholics and have changed the way they operate. So this is a conversation that if you feel strongly about it, you should advocate for yourself. But instead you're being told any questioning of this means that you are anti-woman. And I think that's actually terrible for a country that has a collapsing birth rate.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.